Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Metaworld News. This is news from the metaverse, the world of social virtual worlds, for the week ending the 2nd of July 2017. Yeah, we're halfway through the year and the solstice has gone and passed us by. Indeed. Right, so before I do anything more, I'm going to be reading out largely highlights from my Twitter feed, which you can find, well, there's two really. You can find twitter.com/Malburns, M-A-L-B-U-R-N-S, or one word, with various links about virtual reality interfacing, various stuff like that. And we also have another feed at twitter.com/MetaWorldNews, which features kind of various postings of clips from the hypergrid and any pertinent news to do with the hypergrid and strictly social worlds, so to speak. You can also find me under the same name at Google+, and anecdotally, we have a third feed, which is twitter.com/Malburns_writer. That is my old Second Life avatar name, believe it or not. And that feed is still active with a few arts and destinations, and particularly quite a lot of film and machinima from Second Life and elsewhere. So various sources there. Anyway, but the serious stuff is here. And that's just what I'm going to do now. I'm going to flip back 7 days. And I believe I finished last week with a post from Business Insider describing these hologram-like projections are so good they'll make you question reality. This was actually a VR thing where they were generating holograms as opposed to the VR headset type thing, but they were also mixing that with detailed projections on walls and ceilings and stuff. So the end result was projections plus hologram characters in the middle. Interesting stuff, and they reckon it was good.
Excuse me, Mal.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Could you look forward?
I'm very sorry, folks. I'm so distracted today. I'm not even looking at the camera, apparently.
That's quite all right.
That's a kind of tut moment, isn't it?
Right. Just a little bit. Yep. No, but it helps. It's easier for my eyes.
Yeah, and I've been floating around between two worlds today and sort of getting confused between them. So my eyes are probably focused into infinity, trying to find the other world. Who knows?
That's the visionary profile, isn't it?
The
characteristic of a visionary, right?
Yeah, staring into the distance and thinking of nothing.
Yeah.
Or thinking of everything, as the case may be. Okay, back to what is definitely the new news, because it's from Monday. Article at VentureBeat via Upload VR 2, I think. Virtual reality could get resolution so high they'll trick the human eye this year. And this is actually talking about a 4K resolution, basically, in headsets. And the company called Varjo have a prototype called 2020. It's something that's been created in Unity, for those who want to know about that. And I think they had $2 million in funding from Microsoft and Nokia. Varjo itself is a startup with 19 employees, 10 months old, and based in Helsinki, Finland. And yeah, well, 4K in those Oculus things is better than whatever they got at the moment. Whether you want to wear the blasted thing is another matter, but you know what we think about these things here. Yes. So, a bit more recent, a site called GLIXIL.com. That's GLIXEL.com. A reading list for the holodeck dreamers and headset wearers. Basically, the books influencing today's virtual reality pioneers. This, I think, is of interest to all of you, even if we look at it on 2D screens. Science fiction anticipated virtual reality years before any practical version of the technology was a twinkle in the eyes of its pioneers, ... You get the idea. So it's a selection of books. Quite a few books that aren't mentioned and a couple that I didn't know about. So there you go. It's all editorial opinion, really, isn't it? VentureBeat, earlier in the week, posted about something called thermoreal. Thermo as in thermometer and real as in reality. Thermoreal lets you feel heat, cold, and pain in virtual reality. We know that virtual reality takes over your eyes and your ears and puts you in another world, but it isn't truly immersive yet, they say. So a company called Techwave, Tegway, wants to take it one step closer to immersion by making you feel new sensations like heat, cold, and pain. And they're working on the technology to do it. And you can read more about that via VentureBeat, I guess. VoicesOfVR.com podcast several times a week on Monday, I believe. Tuesday, I think it was. Using VR to diagnose and treat concussions with something called Sync Think. In other words, people suffering from concussion. Diagnosing concussion is largely a subjective process of variations of attention, focus, and balance. Which means existing self-reporting methods are unreliable. So they figure put them in VR and the reporting methods are considerably more reliable or something like that. Check out the podcast at voicesofvr.com. Virtuality-news.net reports that NASA, that's the American space people, as if you didn't know, NASA are testing VR wristbands. California-based Biointeractive Technology Incorporated has announced that 2 of its flagship VR wristbands are being tested for use by NASA. These are simple wristbands that apparently give you the haptic tactile interface you would need in VR. Probably more manageable than a pair of gloves, but who knows how they work. Find out more at virtuality-news.net. Vive Chilly. Oh, God. Where did he invent these names from? Right. Vive Chilly. That's VIVE. Capital N CHILI. Yeah, go figure, folks. Vincili straps cooling fans to your face to reduce sweating in VR. Yes, we'll go figure this too. Apparently it's a bit like a scuba mask that attaches to your HTC Vive. In other words, it doesn't replace it, and it will keep things cool during long sessions. It won't actually take the helmet off for you. It just endeavors to keep you cool, I guess. So go figure, go figure. I'm not really bothered. The more these contraptions they add to the rig, the less likely I am to put a helmet on in the first place. Right. Virtual reality is the future of shopping. Well, it would be, wouldn't it? There's supposed to Lifehacker telling you all about that 4 days ago. Online shopping's been on the rise for a long while, and clearly putting stores into virtual reality so that you can wander around, point and click, and buy at the checkout, etc. Does actually sort of make a bit of sense because it gives you more the feeling of actually wandering around the store. Right, uploadvr.com. A couple of days ago, virtual reality news, events, and talent. Right, this is a bit of a roundup, actually. A relatively slow week for the VR industry as a whole. It's stacked full of new releases, so it's content there, basically. RoadToVR.com, excellent site. Ben Lang reports on Apple are embracing VR. Every virtual reality announcement from today's WWDC keynote. We have heard from Apple quite a lot during the course of the past year or something, particularly Chris Cook saying that AR is going to be a thing. And AR is coming along in the new iOS that's due out in a month or so, I believe. You can actually get it already if you're willing to test the developer's copy. And it basically allows you to see through the picture on your phone to the real world and incorporate some AR overlays. But people have actually found that this technology, the API they're giving out to people for using this, seems to effectively allow them to transition to a virtual reality as well. Not like just loading a virtual world the way we think of it, but the similarity basically between the technology that empowers an augmented reality overlay and actual virtual reality isn't really that far apart. So it rather seems like Apple are sort of by default falling into VR by falling into AR. I'm no expert on this, but also HTC Vive and Steam VR and these things are actually now increasingly becoming available on the Mac operating system, so they're no longer pegged to Windows, I gather, unless you're Oculus. I think Oculus is still a Windows only. Yeah. Microsoft's probably paying Zuckerberg or something. No, sorry, I didn't say that. I'll get into trouble if I get like this. Virtual reality is the future of education. Report here out of VIRTUOSVR. Virtuosevr.com. Our industrialized classrooms will fade away in exchange for the infinite educational opportunities of virtual reality. Yes, indeed. Obviously, we have a picture of a classroom. Half of the pupils are sitting there looking what's going on. The other half are wearing what looks like cardboards, but they might be, and they've got Leap Motion on the front. Who knows what they are? But anyway, yes, education and virtual reality there. Apple's latest acquisition, back to Apple here, reports at Business Insider. Apple has quietly acquired a German company called Sensomotoric Instruments, which can track people's eye movements. Nobody knows how much they pay for it, etc., but they're reporting on it. And Business Insider reckons that this acquisition could be a major step towards making virtual reality a mainstream. Mainstream. That is an interesting word to put in that title. Wish. Let's hope they will. If anybody can do it, it's probably Apple. At some cost, I should think. All right. How virtual reality could eliminate bigotry. Well, this is a nice one. This is at INC, I guess short for Incorporated magazine. Article by Jeffrey James. In the future, all that will matter is what you can accomplish, not how you look or who you are, which is a very good point. This is something we've experienced in virtual worlds for over a decade now. You have rapport, you have communication, you have presence, but in a way, the golden age of VR is the age where photorealism and, all the things that attract sexism, racism, and indeed bigotry aren't there, so it opens up channels of communication that in the real world possibly people wouldn't fall into. So anyway, same old there really, but glad to see that people are pointing that out because it's one of the principal things I think that attracts us to virtual worlds. MIT Technology Review has a post called Virtual Trolls. And this was interesting for some reason. So here we are. Social virtual reality has incredible potential. Anonymity has a chance to get in the way of that. So this is MIT actually. This is almost the opposite argument about how if people are anonymous, buzzing around virtual worlds and stuff, and you don't know much about them, then it can really disrupt the platforms that are actually social VR. Now that, of course, is somewhat contrary to the idea that anonymity, in some respects, is the very thing that in the previous article could help eliminate bigotry. So go figure. Both articles, of course, have a very good point. It's probably a matter of sitting in the middle and figuring out how much is too much or too little, etc. Right, over here in the UK, a surgeon is using Microsoft HoloLens to train medical staff using VR on the operating table. He's been doing similar stuff since April 2015, but he's actually Shafi Ahmed, Professor Shafi Ahmed at the London Royal Hospital in Bartholomew. In 2015, he performed the world's first virtual reality operation, recording and streaming live to about 55,000 people via YouTube. But he hasn't stopped there, and he's now engaged with actually training medical staff on the operating table using VR, and more importantly, the specific VR that is offered by Microsoft's HoloLens, one of many. Right. Digital Trends have a post. Carnegie Mellon. This is an American institution. Is that how I spell it, James? Pronounce it.
Carnegie.
Carnegie Mellon.
Or Carnegie has been pronounced also sometimes. It was a wealthy family that has left a foundation that does a lot of interesting works. They were steel industry, I think. Andrew Carnegie.
Ah, okay. Well, Carnegie Mellon's smart projector blurs the line between physical and digital desktops. I have to say, this is the sort of thing I like. There are actually some computers, I forget which the brand is, one of the manufacturers made these computers. It may well have been HP, where it had like a light box on the surface and a curved sort of screen in front of you, and then a projector that projected down onto you and onto your reading area. And the three angles were meant that you could view objects on your desktop. They weren't real, they weren't holograms either, they were just projected. But you could open a picture from the flat surface and it would appear on the surface in front of you, and the detail would be projected down from the surface above you. Anyway, this is totally different, but Genius InfoBuild projects virtual roofs onto your desktop. Here we are. There's a video here. Basically, you have to imagine that you've got a very strong projector beaming your utilities onto your desktop. For example, it might be a keyboard or a document or something like that. And it all interconnects with your computer in some way. So instead of having a physical keyboard on your desk, you would have a virtual one projected onto the surface that you could use like you would use a keyboard, and you could have notes that you could actually write on, and the information would be transposed into the computer rendering of the note. Anyway, best you check this out for yourself if you're interested. There are some videos to watch too. Basically, the intro here is back in the 80s when people started bringing the graphical user interface to PCs. They adopted the Metaworld, the desktop, to help people understand how to use their personal computers. Now, in 2017, the technology exists to let us expand our computer interfaces out beyond our machines and onto our real-life desks. And I'm not going to read anything more, but it will tell you all about it. There is one nice phrase here saying, if you thought the iPad Pro was big, you ain't seen nothing yet. Right. That's that. I like interfacing stuff, so I found that quite attractive. Although how much it costs and how much kit is actually involved behind the scenes is another matter. The future of VR might have more in common with immersive theater than you might have thought. I've actually mentioned this a few times. The title of the article, the future of VR might have more in common with immersive theater than video games. And I think when you're actually working with virtual reality, like a whole 3D space, looking at the world of theater is a very obvious place to look because it happens in 3D space already. They're used to it. Unlike a film or television, which happens in 2D space rapidly in front of your eyes, a trip to the theater is very much a 3D experience. And many theaters have very large rounded stages. You have theater in the round where the theater's in the middle of an auditorium. The stage is in the middle. I've spoken about VR ideas where you could have the audience in the middle and a circular stage where things happen all around people. Presumably the chairs in the audience would need to be swivel chairs, but very, very similar things to the storytelling and production approach that virtual reality needs. So a worthy article here pointing out the similarities for people creating. Maybe they should be looking to theatre. Right, another iamwire.com. This is an interesting word. IAMWIRE. I suppose it's I am wire. I don't know. Very odd. website names, aren't they? The impact of virtual reality technology on various sectors. This sounds very... It's an overview app, as you might actually imagine. I think the fact he uses the phrase impact on various sectors tells you a lot. Right, 5 takeaways from Virtual Reality Toronto, that's VRTO, by the way, that will help guide VR forward. This is posted at uploadvr.com. They went to the Virtual and Augmented Reality World Conference and Expo that wrapped up last Monday in Toronto, and that's their report on it. And despite the fact it was last Monday, it's actually my most recent post. Haven't had a post today, I'm afraid. A Crossworlds adventure. I hijacked the news reading, shall we say, but there will be more. So let me now just check on the Metaworld feed. Quite a few little videos. hgsafari.blogspot.co.uk, or probably com will get you there too. Safari gets the sinking sensation. Amongst other things we did on Safari on Wednesday was go boating, or sinking, as the case may be. Hence there's this title, I guess. And a bit of dancing and a bit of the usual stuff. So whatever. Selby Evans, who I think we're Melville, you know, from is on Inworld Review now and again. His site, Virtual Outworlding, that's all one word, virtualoutworlding.blogspot.com. About 5 days ago, he had an article. It's worth scrolling down his website to read these, because the layout of his website is rather odd, and sometimes you see a bit at the top and you think, is that all? And you've got to go hunting for the rest of it. But basically, how to build in Cyber Lounge a roadmap for beginners. And if you watch our show, the Inworld Review, you may remember we had Dieter from Cyber Lounge on a couple of weeks back. And Cyber Lounge effectively is a condensed version of OpenSim that you can actually view and enter via the web. It is not what you would think of at this point in time anyway as a web-based browser for Open Simulator. It is very much a matter of taking your Open Simulator content and uploading it into Cyber Lounge, where it would appear very similar. But it's not actually a standalone viewer that can connect to OpenSim Worlds as yet, but as he told us, it may well be at some point. Sorry, that's all in that section. Okay, let me just go to my posts here. I'm looking at Google +2, same post basically, and a few extra videos that I've liked and things there. So that's about it for this week. A very little Inworld. I would like to wish our broadcasting studios here are based on a grid called the Great Canada Grid, and unless I've got my knickers in the twist, as they say, it is today that is Canada's day. So if you're trotting around the hypergrid, you can come to the Great Canadian Grid.ca :8002 and find Canada events happening, because, well, it's Canada. And we will wish them all a happy Canada Day too while I'm at it. But with that, no news summary would be complete without some extra news from the developers' corner, so to speak. So it's over to James. Hi, James.
Hi, Mel. Thanks so much. Just a quick report this week, and once again, just to clarify, I'm sure everybody knows, but these are the office hours that developers hold on the OS Grid to talk about what developers are doing with the Open Simulator code. Last Tuesday was another well-attended meeting. I had almost 10 people were there, and there were a lot of commits to the code base. 45 commits since last Tuesday, so a lot of work going on. With his, I think they're still in the process of doing cleanup, and they're checking on what needs to happen to get version 0.9 to a release. There was quite a good discussion about region crossings. Still something that has been reviewed a couple times, and an interesting comment that one component as an aspect to region crossings is a merge of code between the Open Simulator code and the Avanation code. And the comment was, I just should have used the Avanation code because it would work better with that. So I thought that was a fun little bit of insight on some of the challenges of integrating this code. And then the last discussion was about work that's going on with dynamic textures. And I think if you want to read more about this, it's in the notes. But I guess there are some affordances with textures that are loaded in a different way as assets on prims, and so the viewers are not all consistent on the capability to render dynamic textures. But what impressed me about the conversation was that they would go down a certain path of development, and then they always had the hypergrid in mind. So, well, would this work across grids? And right. I still like the fact that the developers are keeping the hypergrid as a priority. Not just on having just one simulator, but having it work across grids, having it being interchangeable, and of course, it goes aligned with keeping OpenSim running on Linux, and just the sense of flexibility that we have with Open Simulator that we don't have with other platforms. So I thought a very effective meeting. Another good, lots of accomplishments.
I wonder if dynamic textures on a prim kind of thing also relates to media on a prim, because there's some quirky things I noticed. For example, I guess this goes back to the days of Second Life. You can't upload an animated GIF on, into a prim as a texture. You actually have to make one texture that has all the frames in a square on it and then code it so that it looks like it's animated on the prim. Whereas it'd be so much nicer if you could just upload an animated GIF and then stick it on the surface of a prim like you can with a JPEG or PNG.
Yeah.
But again, when you think about it, maybe media like videos and things playing on a prim sort of qualifies too, because at the moment, if you use a viewer like Firestorm that is closely even the OpenSim version closely references the Second Life version, they obey the rules of the Second Life platform, which aren't always appropriate out here. Whereas if you use another viewer, of course, that uses maybe more legacy methods of displaying media, you suddenly find it doesn't display the current kind of media that other browsers do. So it's yeah, I wonder how much they're related, but possibly not at all.
I think it is related, and it's such a complex environment. The different platforms, the different viewers, the different servers, and so this is just being an observer to what the developers are negotiating is a fascinating experience.
Yeah. Oh well,
yep.
We will see. We will see. Okay. So thanks for that, James. Yep. And with nothing more from me either, I think we can call it a wrap. We will be back with Metaworld News same time, same place next week, and that'll be the week ending the 9th, won't it? Yes. Yep. So have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.